Hey Chris, it's Zach with your 740 IL. Just doing a little video inspection for you. So first off, I did find those misfire and fuel trim codes as you were talking about earlier. So I actually smoke tested it. So it's kind of a sign of a leak. And I did find kind of right where the throttle, the plate for the throttle blade bolts to the intake manifold, there is a leak. An air leak right around there, and that's going to actually cause that rough idle when it's cold, and then maybe a weird stumble when it's idling. So the intake manifold, well, there's also another repair that needs to be done as well. You see that coolant down there, that green coolant? So there's it's called a valley pan. It's actually leaking on this vehicle. It's common on all of them at this age, but it's actually it goes under the whole intake, and it basically seals the cooling system from the outside. It's just a big cover, and it starts to leak over time, especially as oil starts to get down there. It kind of ruins that rubber gasket. So I'm going to quote the time to remove the intake, and I'll also reseal it. So right there in the new intake gaskets. And then there's a decent amount of oil leaks, but a lot of those will be fixed from the timing chain guides. I did see this power steering line is leaking. I'll raise the vehicle and I'll get you a better view of that. Yeah, let me raise it. Alright, so I'll get you a better view. You can see the oil leaks as well. And then also, you can see some of the coolant as well on this. This is the bell housing on the transmission, but you can get a view of that coolant that I was talking about. It comes down the back and the front. But then there's a lot of the oil, which will be cleaned off for those timing cover guides. And then we got some red fluid. So that is the power steering right there. And it looks like the main leak is from that cooler hose I pointed out earlier. It's right there. You can see it's puking right after the clamp there. So usually on cars of this vintage, I'd like to quote the entire, like all 4 lines for the power steering system. But if you wanted to just do that one, you could get away with just doing that one for now. That's the only one that seems like it's leaking. Let me see. And then another concern I thought I'd point out, not trying to scare you, but looks like the suspension will be due for a refresh soon. It looks like you can see all the ball joints over here. The boots are just torn and the grease is gone. So if you ever get a rough ride or anything, or any shaking, then that might contribute to that. And then I did notice this right front arm is new, but it looks like somebody may have hacked together the mount for the headlight level sensor. They zip tied it. So if you want to replace that as well. And then you can see this you can see that green right there. That is the grease from the ball joint. So I just recommend those in the near future. Suspension. As for that though, that's everything I found. Just get a view of the rear here. I did find some cracking on these rear brake lines. Not a big deal. They're not that bad, but you know, just so you know, they're there. Yeah, tires and brakes look good though. I'll get you an updated quote, and we'll get this thing back on the road.